Okay, so back to the thimerosal story. So we have better ways of preserving vaccines. Now let's just get it out of the vaccine. So it was eliminated from all the vaccines that we use except for certain forms of flu vaccine. Okay, because of the concerns about thimerosal, the Finns did a study, and they looked at thimerosal-containing preservative vaccines and preservative-free vaccines. They actually found in their study that patients who received the thimerosal were less likely to be autistic than the ones who didn't receive thimerosal. It did not approach statistical significance. And, the Finns in their study concluded, we never suggested that thimerosal prevents autism. We're simply suggesting that thimerosal doesn't cause autism. And in fact, it's so absurd that here's a little evidence that maybe it prevents it, which is kind of absurd, but you get the point. To that end, several states, New York and California, banned the sale of thimerosal-containing vaccines in their borders. Guess what happened to the rate of autism after they banned it? It went up. Similarly, in Britain, during this whole MMR scare, when the rate of MMR vaccination went down, guess what happened to the rate of autism? It went up. If there was a cause and effect in both cases, as you had less vaccination, you should have less disease. You see more disease because the two are not tied together at all. So now, with the exception of certain flu vaccines, there is no preservative in your vaccine. You're going to get that question all the time. What about the preservative? It's preservative-free unless it's certain flu vaccines. Having said that, the amount of organic mercury contained in a flu vaccine versus the amount of elemental, much more toxic mercury in a can of tuna. One can of tuna is equivalent to about 500 flu shots when rated for the decreased toxicity of the organic mercury. If you don't rate for the decreased toxicity of the organic mercury, one can of tuna is equal to about 75 flu shots. If you are concerned about mercury in flu shots, I'm a scuba instructor, save the coral reefs, protect the tuna, don't eat one can of tuna, get a flu shot every year for the rest of your life, and dive your head off. Okay? But don't be worried about the thimerosal that's in there. Now we'll fast forward to last summer. Okay, last summer there was a neurologist whose kid developed autism after a vaccine, and they brought this in front of what they refer to as the vaccine court. It's not really a court, and they presented their evidence, and the court actually sided with them. What's interesting is that child has a known mitochondrial enzyme defect. Mitochondrial enzyme defects cause brain damage and death. The fact that Anna Pauling, the infant involved, is not dead is a miracle. She has a genetic disease 100% inherited from her mother. That is causing her intellectual impairment. Her MMR vaccine had nothing to do with it. You want to blame someone? I don't want to place blame in genetic disease, but if we have to place blame, the blame lies with mom. That's where all of your mitochondria come from. It has nothing to do with MMR. Based off of this, a bunch of other cases were brought in front of the same court later in the summer, and we were all on pins and needles because we didn't know what they were going to do. They did, however, side with science and say there's no evidence that MMR causes autism. End of story. Having said that, the discussions continue. But that's the state of the art. This is Dr. Kevin Windisch from Sparks Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine. If you'd like to schedule a rotation with us, please give my office a call, 775-359-7111. You can friend us on Facebook under Sparks Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine. We'll see you next time.